In a recent piece of writing, one of my characters is disturbed in bed at night by a sound she can't place. The incident was wholly imagined when I wrote it, not based on any experience I can recall. Here's the scene. At night, she hears a persistent clicking as of tiny nails on polished wood, slightly muffled, elusive. When she turns her head in one direction, she is certain it originates at the base of the bookshelf. Turning the other direction, she pinpoints it just inside the closet door. Sitting up, it comes from directly underneath the bed. Once, when her husband was away from home, she hunted the sound on her hands and knees in the middle of the night. Each time she moved toward it, the rustling of her nightgown on the carpet obliterated the sound. But when she stopped moving and heard it again, she was sure she was closing in. After 20 minutes, she found a single red bead tangled in the rug. The click, click, click continued. She'd gotten back in bed and turned her back to the door. Monday night, I find myself suddenly awake, staring at the bedside clock, 2:33 a.m. I turn over, I curl up on my right side, or turn over again, stretch flat on my back. I hug the extra pillow to my chest. Still awake by 3, I'm confused. I'm not an insomniac. I'm good at sleep. I come from a long line of sleepers. Even in the worst of times, sleep is my magic bullet. 3:11, I'm thinking lovingly of sleep, trying to lure it back with absolute stillness when it starts. Click, 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 click. It's a small sound, sharp, slightly metallic, but muffled. Click, 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 click. You've got to be kidding, I say out loud. The clicking? I strain my ears. It must be the bed frame, a tiny vibration set in motion as I breathe. But when I turn my head, the sound travels across the room. I sit up. I listen some more. In a few more minutes, I'm out of bed on my hands and knees. There's no carpet in this version, and the floor is cold. I am hunting a clicking sound in the middle of the night. Would I be on hands and knees, and later standing on a kitchen chair just outside the bedroom door, listening high, listening low, if I hadn't written about a woman hunting a clicking sound in the middle of the night? Who's writing who, anyway? I live in an old 2-story wooden A-frame, converted into flats by my Greek landlords and his sons sometime in the 70s. There's an improvised feeling to the place and the not unreasonable fear that if you press too hard on anything, it just might crack in two. It's a noisy one as houses go. I don't startle easily, so I'm seldom disturbed by the sounds, even ones I can't explain. But somehow listening to this clicking in the wide space at 3 a.m. feels like eavesdropping on the inner workings of things. I don't find the cause of the sound or even its precise location. Back in bed, I start to pay attention to the pattern. Click, 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 click. I count for a while and find myself trying to remember the code my brother and I used for ghost communication. There was a ghost in our apartment who we consulted on a regular basis. We invented a system that involved red hots, a plastic rocking horse, and a question. The ghost's answers were ascertained based on how many red hots were missing, literally from the horse's mouth, where we left them with our handwritten query. We found out a lot of important stuff from that ghost. Whether or not the dead could hear us, which Star Trek character was the most awesome, what we'd be when we grew up, marine biologist here at your service. I knew it was my brother taking the red hots, but I loved our ghost anyway, and believed fervently in the answers we got. They reassured me with the possibility of something absolute, a definitive truth. 3:36. I'm hot, itchy, the sheet tangled in my thrashings. I think about my character, the one who hears the clicking. Why didn't I let her figure out what it was? Marilyn is her name. She is an insomniac. I am not, I say to myself adamantly, glancing at the clock. She is neurotically lonely. I am alone in this bed. Self-deception is flimsy in the middle of the night. There's so little to fortify it. I mentally trace the contents of the medicine cabinet: fish oil, vitamin C, non-drowsy Claritin. Is there any liquor in the house? I wish I still smoked. I turn on the light. Marilyn is a secret smoker, damn her. Remembering the weeks of brain-crushing withdrawal, I decide against a trip to the 24-hour Easy Mart and scan the pile of books on the nightstand. The Elegant Universe. I've been reading about string theory for months. The physics is way beyond me, but I'm fascinated by the hypotheses. I open to a diagram that looks more like a Dali painting than a scientific graph. Maybe the math will knock me out. Deep in a passage about probability waves, one ear on the clicking, still going, I click back with the nail of my pointer finger on the spine of the book, just to see if there's some possibility of conversation. I tap twice, no response. I tap 3 times fast, softly, brief pause, one sharp ladder tap. The clicking is on a steady beat. I tap 15 times fast and laugh, thinking for all I know, I could be telling it to go to hell or begging for more. I turn to my favorite chapter, the part that predicts the existence of 10 dimensions. I like to think of hidden doorways between them. Perhaps there's one in the corner of this room with the lost hairs and pennies. A doorway far tinier than a pinprick. The sound it makes when opened would be like drowning or being born. I spend some languorous minutes tracing the parallel universe lives I could be leading. Of course, spatially, these other dimensions are likely unrecognizable, but I stick to what I can easily conjure. I always wanted black hair. My black-haired self would be decisive, brilliant, a badass. Maybe she's sending me a message in clicks through a rip in the fabric between our universes. She's narrating the end of my novel. She's telling me I forgot to put the recycling out again. She's outlining the tactics for solving climate change. What's that? Shh, she wants me to go to sleep. Lights back out, book abandoned. The clicking stops altogether for more than 10 minutes. I'm even more alert during the quiet to note when it starts up again, which it does. I start to imagine an elaborate contraption tapping out a record in a code so complex it would give Morse a migraine. If there were some kind of central massive recording device, a million tiny needles clicking away, tracking all doings in the wide now of simultaneity, untold things and creatures and people and their parallel existences, all in motion this very moment, blinking, awake in the dark. Sorry. Blinking, awake in the dark, wiping their noses or fertilizing an egg, or cursing in the desert, sandstorm whipped, lacing up boots, breaking bones or cleaning guns, remembering the smell of someone's hair, spring unfurling, pink-petaled, sunlit wash dripping dry, tree frog species extinguishing, counting birds on a wire, unzipping a dress, flying south, bloodletting in a jealous rage, rinsing a coffee cup, cheating on taxes, fingertips on lips, slicing jeans, shooting up, cursing fame, twisting the bed sheets in a tight fist of climax, casting a shadow, reading Dostoevsky, digging through trash, leaves crisping redly, administering morphine, robbing a grave, brewing tea or cutting the umbilical cord, frozen in headlights, peeling gum from the sole of a shoe, tying a kimono sash, bank CEOs opening offshore accounts, bees honeying, eyes wept dry, moon swelling tide, cockroaches multiplying, sliding a deadbolt into place, fishermen untwining their nets, interest rates falling, lighting a butter lamp, electing the opposition, dreaming of quicksand, salmon spawning, minor earthquakes, a plastic island larger than Texas swirling adrift in the Pacific. 4:45. I've crossed some kind of internal threshold. My eyes are burning and my brain feels swollen, pressed against the skull. I hold my breath for as long as I can, with the vague thought that I might pass out from the effort. What if I could offer the world's insomniacs this simple cure? Pressure pulses red behind eyelids and I hold, until I feel a hard thud in my chest, heart flipping over like a fish in the hull of a boat. I suck in air and the bed shakes with my heaving. There was an earthquake just the other day, one of those single strong jolts, a visceral reminder that underneath my home city is a maze of active fault lines, cracks in the very ground we count on. I think about hidden shifts and the idea of solid. Quantum physicists tell us that a subatomic particle is in more than one place at once, everywhereing, until the observer pins it into shape. As we look more and more deeply at the nature of things, the notion of solid becomes ever more quaint. Click, 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 click. Solid indeed. Coming up through the cracks, pale green things, pale green things. It's a line from a Mountain Goat song that's been stuck in my head for days. And there are cracks, I think, so many. Things are falling apart. With all the extra hours, why haven't insomniacs solved the world's problems? Capitalism, for instance. Humming up through the cracks, occupy tents like mushrooms springing up after a night of hard rain. At a party recently, some guy told me fungi might be the key to ridding the world of toxins. Pale green things, pale green things. If there are cracks, there is also slipping through. A recent headline on my email homepage read, "Woman shoots herself over foreclosure." When the mortgage crisis slipped into a wider economic meltdown, I pictured a bloated economy collapsing inward, rotten from the core, each belly up, further evidence of how stretched thin we are, how long we've been building on promises made of thin air. Bailed out, indeed, but who gets thrown over? I think about that woman now, the promise of settled or foundation or mine, having been pulled from under her, catapulting her own free fall on the direst of consequences. And on we go, all of us, skating on the skin of a bubble. In my fictional narrative, things fall apart around Marilyn, her marriage, her idea of what her life would be. She doesn't find or offer any discernible reason for what happens. She hears a clicking sound at night. She hunts it on hands and knees. Then she finds a red bead, something other than what she's looking for. It's not just about how it always goes. A significant moment to me is when she turns her back to the door. This character vexed me, and right, I couldn't understand her motivations. Is her back to the door a kind of refusal? Does she want to pretend the falling apart isn't happening, to not see what might be on its way in through the space opening? In the half-delusional determination of sleeplessness, I tell myself, don't turn away. I lie awake with no answers, and I listen.